Hello everyone. I'm going to be creating a set of videos about questions that we get asked as full-time travelers. We're living a lifestyle that a lot of people aren't familiar with, and we do get asked a lot about how our life is different now as full-time nomads compared to what our life was like before. Emily and I are both introverts, so when we were preparing to become full-time travelers, we weren't worried about being lonely or being isolated, but I'll tell you that first year of full-time traveling, we really did go through some hard times where we felt very lonely and isolated. So we learned pretty quickly that we are not as introverted as we thought, and we realized that we needed to go out and seek some socialization. But that's not something that comes easy for us, so how did we do it? So in this video, we're going to answer the question, how do we meet people and what do we do to prevent becoming lonely while traveling? We're going to tell you 8 things that we do while we're traveling to meet people and to socialize, and we're also going to tell you 3 big mistakes that we have made when it comes to meeting people while traveling full-time. One great way to meet new people while traveling is through social media. Facebook has groups that you can join that are for people who are traveling or who are living in a certain location. For example, right now we're in Penang, Malaysia, and there are several groups you can join, and a lot of times somebody in the group will post that there's going to be a meetup where you can go to meet other people. We've met people like this in other places around the world too. When we were in Chiang Mai, Thailand, we went to one of these type of meetups, and the meetup we went to was huge. There was even a special section and special tables just for newcomers. This particular meetup that we went to was more aimed toward older people, but there's meetups just like this for younger people too. But at this meetup, we met people and then continued to connect with these new friends throughout our time in Chiang Mai. Another great way to meet people while traveling is to stay in a hostel instead of a hotel. Hostels just tend to be more social than hotels, and a lot of the hostels will have a common area where people can go to meet up with each other. A good way to get to know people in this type of setting is to ask the others in the hostel about what type of activities or sightseeing they've done in the area and what they plan to do in the future. A lot of times you can join a group from your hostel for some type of sightseeing or activity. This is what we did when we went to Huacachina, a desert oasis in Peru. Now this is getting a little bit more difficult for us as we get older. Hostels do tend to attract a younger crowd, but we're in our mid-40s now and we've seen people our age or even people older than us that have stayed at hostels, and usually the younger group will be more than happy to welcome you to join them on an activity. Another way to connect is to check with your friends back home to see if they're planning to travel for vacation somewhere where you're planning to go. I'm a former teacher and I try and keep in touch with my former students, and it turns out during the first year of our travel, there were 2 former students that were in the same place we were planning to go to. One former student, Julia, was in Peru volunteering at a physical rehabilitation clinic, and when we were in Argentina, another former student, Ellen, was there for a study abroad program. And even if your friends from back home aren't planning to come to where you are, why not invite them yourself? They may want to take a vacation anyway. Also, many times we meet other long-term travelers in a certain location only to find out that they're going to be going to the same place we are sometime in the future, so then we meet up with them again when we get to our new location. Something else we do that not only helps us meet people, but also helps the community where we're working is to work with a volunteer organization. We have done this several times, and quite often we're able to get to know and become friends with the other volunteers who are doing the same thing. And there are so many ways to volunteer: orphanages, homeless shelters, retirement homes, children's programs, and the list goes on. Some of our best volunteer experiences have been in Haiti, Dominican Republic, Chile, and Cambodia. Sometimes when we're planning to do some sightseeing, we'll take a guided tour instead of doing the sightseeing independently. Now this way of sightseeing does cost more than going on our own, but when we're on a guided tour, we have a tour guide that we can be interacting with, and usually there's also other tourists on your tour that you can interact with. We have met many other travelers this way in Patagonia, Salta, Argentina, Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, and many turned out to be from the same area of America where we used to live before we became full-time travelers. We have also taken classes such as cooking classes where we meet other travelers taking the same class. When we use Airbnb as our form of accommodation, We usually try and find a host that's not just going to rent out apartments, but a host that we can actually connect with on a personal level. Now, finding a host like this can be a little bit tricky. What we do is we find an apartment that looks good online, and then we read the reviews. If the reviews talk mainly about the apartment itself and say things like, the apartment was clean, the apartment had everything we needed, the apartment was in a good location, but don't mention anything about the host, then they might not be a host that we'll be able to interact with. But if the reviews talk a lot about the friendliness and the helpfulness of the host, then that might be the way to go. Also, if the host has like 15 or 20 other apartments listed, they're probably going to be pretty busy maintaining their apartments and won't have much time for social interaction. Now, a sure way to have a host that you'll be able to get to know on a personal level is to book a shared space where you're staying in the same house or apartment as the host and you're sharing the same living room and kitchen. But even when we've had private accommodation, we've had so many wonderful hosts. We had hosts in Montevideo, Uruguay, who invited us and some of their neighbors to a barbecue. Our host in Chiang Mai invited us to a big party they were having one night. And when we were in the Cameron Highlands, Malaysia, this was when the coronavirus forced us to stay put for 3 months, and we had an amazing host there who made sure we had food, supplies, and everything we needed for our long-term stay. Probably the best and most common way we have met people while traveling is by attending a religious service. Now, we understand that not everyone would be comfortable with this, but if you're willing to get outside your comfort zone a little bit, it really is a great way to meet people. We have visited several English-speaking churches all over the world. And finally, and maybe most importantly, get to know the local people who live in your neighborhood. These are the people who serve you in the restaurants, who own the shops, the taxi drivers. Don't confine yourself to relationships just with other travelers or people from your home country. Even if you don't speak the local language, you'll be amazed at the friendliness of the locals and how easy it is to meet them despite the language barrier. So there you have our 8 tips for how to meet people when you're traveling. Now let me tell you about the 3 biggest mistakes we have made when we're trying to meet people while traveling long term. The first mistake we made was just underestimating our need for socialization in the first place. Like I mentioned before, we're introverts, so we were kind of shocked when we started to feel lonely. A second big mistake we've made is just being too rushed and too much in a hurry. One of our biggest travel regrets occurred when we were on a trip to Greece. We were walking down the street and this man, we think he was a Greek Orthodox priest, he started to have a conversation with us. But we were in a hurry to get somewhere, I don't even remember where it was. And when we look back on it now, we really just wish we had slowed down and taken the time to get to know this gentleman. We almost made the same mistake when we were in Mandalay, Myanmar, when a Buddhist monk started a conversation with us. But thankfully, we remembered our mistake from Greece, and we really enjoyed spending time hearing this monk's life story. And a third mistake that we've made is not taking the initiative ourselves to try and meet people. You can't just go sit in a restaurant and expect some strangers to come up to you and ask you to be their friend. We would definitely be interested in knowing what kind of advice you have for us for meeting people while we travel. So please leave a comment below and give us some suggestions. Thanks for watching, everyone. Be sure to check out some of the other videos that you see here, and also be sure to take a look at our website at snailtravelers.com to find out more about our world travel adventure.